Replacing Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool was always going to be difficult, and from the moment fan favourite Xabi Alonso withdrew himself from consideration, it felt like anyone else would be seen as a downgrade. So when Liverpool confirmed the appointment of Arne Slot seemingly out of nowhere, it naturally left many associated with the club feeling bewildered and let down. Jamie Carragher saw the appointment as proof of the scarcity of top-tier managers. Meanwhile, ex-players John Aldridge and Robbie Fowler were unaware that the Dutchman was even a candidate, with Fowler so unfamiliar with Slot that he had to Google him, and was astonished to learn that his Feyenoord side weren't even top of the Eredivisie. And there is fear even among fans, dreading the notion of their club having hired their own Erik ten Hag, a comparison that was inevitable, but also unfair. Indeed, much of the skepticism surrounding Slot seems to be rooted in the fact that he is also Dutch, and also bald, and for those reasons alone, he is seemingly destined to struggle in the Premier League. It's a ludicrously reductive argument, of course, and there must be compelling reasons why not only Liverpool, but other prominent European clubs showed interest in him. What they're not telling you about Arne Slot is the fascinating journey he has had from Feyenoord to Liverpool and the potential impact he could leave at Anfield. As a player, Slot was a decent but largely unremarkable midfielder, with the bulk of his appearances coming in the Dutch second tier. While very good technically as an attacking midfielder or number 10, his biggest flaw was his speed, which meant he had to rely on others around him to do the running. But it was his limitations as a player that have helped him become the coach he is today. He was living proof that one player could not do his job unless his teammates were doing theirs, which deepened his understanding of fostering teamwork. Slot always had the makings of a coach after he began behaving like one in his final years as a player at PEC Zwolle. The club recognized this potential in Slot and offered him a youth coaching position once he retired in 2013. A few years later, he was then appointed as an assistant manager at Cambuur, who had just been promoted to the Eredivisie, after which he was handed his first big break in 2017 when John van den Brom hired him as an assistant coach at AZ Alkmaar. After serving as assistant manager at AZ Alkmaar for 2 years, he assumed the top position and made a remarkably strong start as their head coach. In his first season, they had already beaten Feyenoord and PSV 3-0 and 4-0 away, respectively, before a 2-0 win at Ajax in March 2020 put them level on points at the top of the Eredivisie. With only goal difference separating his team from the Amsterdam Giants and just 9 games left, Slot's side had the momentum. However, the following week brought an abrupt halt to the season as the pandemic took hold before the campaign was completely cancelled in April, dashing any chance to win just the 3rd title in AZ's history. His second season wasn't quite as impressive, however, with Ajax running away with the league. But Slot still led AZ to a 3rd place finish, and just a single point behind a far superior and expensively assembled PSV. As his coaching career gained momentum, it began to garner widespread attention across the Netherlands. Midway through the 2020-21 season, Feyenoord had made the announcement that their veteran manager, Dick Advocaat, would be departing at the end of the campaign, positioning Slot as the natural successor. But just a few days later, the AZ board caught wind of the talks between Slot and the Rotterdam club and promptly sacked him. While Slot was clearly ready for a step up, it was far from the way he wanted to leave the club. In 2021-22, Slot was brought in to revive the sleeping giant that was Feyenoord. In the season prior, the club had finished 5th and a whopping 29 points behind champions Ajax, with the football under Advocaat proving very uninspiring. Despite losing top scorer Steven Berghuis to Ajax, Slot's early results were promising, guiding Feyenoord to a 3rd place finish in his maiden campaign while scoring 10 more league goals than they did in Advocaat's last season. They also almost won the Europa Conference League, only narrowly losing to Jose Mourinho's Roma in the final. Although his team finished 3rd, he won the Rinus Michels Award in 2022 for the best coach in the Netherlands, defying expectations as it was an award typically received by title-winning managers. Despite the departure of several key players, such as Tyrell Malacia, Luis Sinisterra, and Marco Senesi in the subsequent 2022 summer transfer window, Slot had somehow still improved his squad with impact signings and made a sizable profit through player sales. On the opening day, Feyenoord thrashed Vitesse 5-2, a result that set the tone for one of the best seasons in the club's modern era that culminated in the crowning glory of the Eredivisie title, only the club's second this century. This achievement quickly prompted a flurry of interest in Slot from English clubs. First, it was Crystal Palace and Leeds who had Slot on their list of possible replacements for Patrick Vieira and Jesse Marsch respectively. Tottenham was the next club to come knocking, believing they had convinced Slot to replace Antonio Conte in North London, only for the Dutchman to surprisingly choose to stay put and continue his project at Feyenoord. Almost a year on, Slot's stock has continued to rise on the back of a strong season, with his team only losing twice in the league and securing the Dutch Cup. While having not been able to defend their Eredivisie title, they were only bested by an unreal campaign by PSV, who have lost just once all season. Slot's side did at least get one over the league leaders on their road to lifting the cup. PSV may have deposed them this season, but there is no feeling that Feyenoord have had a drop-off in performances, and they could yet surpass their league-winning points tally of 82 from last season. There's little doubt on paper about Slot's success in Dutch football, but what kind of manager is he, and what style does he play? During his early coaching years, Slot had established and refined his preferred style of play. This process was greatly influenced by his relationships with other coaches, including Van den Brom and Pascal Janssen at AZ, Marcel Keizer at Cambuur, and the exchanging of ideas with Pep Lijnders, now Klopp's assistant at Liverpool. While it's all well and fine for a coach to have ideas, Slot places greater emphasis on communicating those ideas effectively with players. His best quality is his ability to communicate, believing that only 60% of coaching is the idea and 40% is how clearly you explain it. So what exactly are those ideas? Aggressive attacking and a lot of pressing. Pep Guardiola is a name that keeps coming up, but Slot also takes inspiration from various other coaches like Marcelo Bielsa, Jorge Sampaoli, Luciano Spalletti, Mikel Arteta, and of course, Jurgen Klopp. All of them have their own ideas, and so does he. But one thing their teams all have in common is intensity. Slot is a firm believer in intensity, as it essentially gives his side two ways to win. If the quality of their play is lower than that of their opponents, or they happen to be having an off day, they can still win by outworking whoever they're up against. His approach involves dynamic movement in midfield and on the wings, with quick transitions and passing making it hard for opponents to defend. The intensity of their game is crucial, making fitness levels absolutely paramount. So to address fitness concerns associated with this intense style, Slot works closely with his data and fitness teams. For instance, if a player's metrics drop during training, he would adjust the training intensity accordingly. It explains why Slot likes working with younger players that are keen to learn, exemplified by Feyenoord's title-winning squad, the majority of whom were 24 years old or younger. For example, when Malacia left Feyenoord for Manchester United in 2022, he chose to replace him at left-back with 20-year-old youth product Quilinci Hartman. When he needed a central midfielder, he brought in 22-year-old Mats Wiever from Excelsior Rotterdam in the Dutch second tier. Both were essentially plucked from nowhere and are now full internationals with the Dutch national team. Slot has gained the backing of these players not just by being straightforward though. They like him because they win under him, but perhaps more importantly, they follow him because most of the things he tells them comes true. A prime example of Slot's coaching prowess occurred during the training sessions leading up to their Conference League semi-final against Marseille in 2022. During those sessions, he instructed his midfielders to play long balls to the wingers. Orkun Kokcu, one of Feyenoord's standout players who had risen through the club's youth ranks, expressed frustration and questioned the decision. Slot simply reassured him that he would explain later. To everyone's amazement, within 20 minutes of the actual match, Feyenoord found themselves leading 2-0, with both goals coming from well-executed long balls behind Marseille's defense. a weakness of theirs that Slot had astutely identified. Yet, Slot is by no means a hardliner and instead emphasizes positivity. When preparing video analyses for the players to review their performances, he ensures that the final clip shown is always a positive one, leaving the players with a sense of self-assurance as they conclude their session. Above all else, his objective is not to win at any cost, but to deliver exciting as well as winning football. Uncertainty about the near future still abounds at Anfield, and no doubt following one of the most beloved managers in the club's history will be immensely difficult. But Klopp had turned doubters into believers, and Slot has already shown enough in his relatively short coaching career to suggest he could too. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more football news, stories, and insights. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a beat. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.